Okay, we're live. Welcome in. I'm the real underscore G Warner on Twitter. Going to go through the midweek soccer matchups as we enter the last week of a very, very long season. Going to go over English Premier League, the Coppa Italia, the Coupe de la Ligue in France, and I believe there's one Serie A match this week as well, makeup due to a COVID postponement. And I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible, but also want to give the EPL its due as they're somehow completing. Pretty risky to be finishing the season with a 2-match or an English week in the last week, but all the other leagues seem to do it sooner. But whatever, it is what it is. I guess that's what happened when you play 2 cups. So I make my own lines. You can follow my plays on the real underscore G Warner on Twitter. I make my own lines, and then I look to see what current odds are available at Bet Online to see discrepancies. It's like my first look, not at a wedding, but going through and try to see if there's anything that kind of jumps out. And going to try to give my 2 cents on each of these matchups before I sign off, hopefully sooner rather than later. So first match on Tuesday, the 18th of May, is Manchester United hosting Fulham. Fulham didn't have a great showing as soon as they were relegated in their last match against Southampton. Southampton's really picking up all those points at the end of the season. Great start of the season, nothing in the middle, and points at the end. But they're not playing here, so I'll skip that for now. United currently giving a goal and a half to Fulham with all the juice on the Fulham side. That tells me that United is not playing anybody important because Fulham really hasn't been able to score any goals all season. Their defense was terrible at the beginning. They shored that up, and really who knows what their motivation is at this point. A lot of players potentially playing for contracts, but mainly at their own clubs because they were on loan at Fulham. Not really sure who's sticking around when you have to reduce the wage bill when you fall down the championship. I imagine Scott Parker sticking around. But Manchester United, they're far and away in second place. I think they do want to remain sharp for their Europa League final, but they can probably do that in the last match of the season by playing their full team next weekend, and with 5 subs. I mean, there's plenty. But anyway, I'm not interested in backing Fulham getting a goal and a half, so I'll move to the next one. And that is Southampton. Speaking of the Devils, or the Saints, I guess is the more correct way to put it. Saints FC hashtag on Twitter. Southampton is a pick'em to Leeds right now. Leeds with all the juice on their side. I think this is a pretty tough matchup for Southampton. Both teams want to play open matches or open games. And I'm so used to translating from American speak to English. But Southampton currently not getting any sort of candy at all. It's a little bit surprising to me. I thought probably in my guess is that Leeds, I don't have them in front of me, but I think I'm pretty sure I would have expected Leeds to be a favorite here. Leeds with some up and down showings lately, but they've been beating some good teams, and Southampton is not one of those. Danny Ings just getting into the England squad. Have to treat him with kid gloves because he seems to always be hurt. There's nothing to play for in the Southampton season coming into this match. So that's probably a lineup that's worth looking at to see exactly what they're doing, if they're playing important people. If they're not, I'm not really sure what to expect, really. But Leeds, they play an open game, and that's a dangerous thing against the big clubs who can really punish them for being too wide open. But I don't think Southampton is one of those sides. They could certainly use the more open pitch to try to create more offense, but they need that. And ultimately, if this keeps falling, I'm interested in Leeds. I hope that they would somehow be an underdog, but I doubt that'll happen before kickoff tomorrow. Next is Brighton hosting Manchester City. Brighton getting a goal and a quarter with all the juice on their side. Forgot to mention that fans will be in attendance, I think a quarter of the stadium for most of these English Premier League matches. I'm not sure that's a huge difference in the quarter goal that I give for home field advantage or home pitch advantage for the season, but it certainly would be higher than that. But ultimately, Brighton, pretty good performance, I think, playing defense the whole time against West Ham. Weren't really threatened, to be completely honest, though they usually want to play a possession game. That's certainly something they were not able to play in that match. Took the lead, surrendered conceded equalizer right after that in the match against West Ham. Disappointing, but that's kind of how soccer goes. And West Ham deserved the point, if not more than that. So, but Brighton's issue is that they are great at possessing the ball and not being able to score with that. In this match against Man City, not sure really what lineup Man City is going to put out there, but they're so deep that even if they're putting in some reserves, they're still going to be so much better and have such a much larger wage, whatever. Their players get paid a lot more than Brighton's do, even their backups. I think that's a certainty. And Man City, they're going to possess the ball. So Brighton's going to miss out on that possession. They're going to try to score goals through a counterattack, probably similarly to the way they played West Ham. But Man City's got a lot better finishers. They pay them a lot more. They've got a lot better players. And they probably are not dealing with the fatigue as much as West Ham is at this point of the season. So if you're backing Brighton here, getting a goal and a quarter, as I'm an underdog better, so that would be the side that I would want. You want to be pretty sure that they're not going to allow that first goal for a long period of time, because that first goal becomes a second goal pretty quickly. And the only real way to counter that, or for Brighton really to cover the spread without winning, is well, I'm not sure they can do that necessarily, because they're going to have to score is probably the way that they can cover the spread. And I'm not sure how you can really expect Brighton to do that, even against Man City's backups, because their defense has shown that it can prevent goals. They had a pretty poor performance against Newcastle, 2 goals. One was a pretty unlucky penalty at the end, still came back and won. And the problem is that they can put up 4 on Newcastle. If Brighton is just as unlikely to score, it's going to be hard for them to stay within that single goal and lose by that 1, especially with all the juice on their side. If it might fall to +1, there's not a lot of safety there, as I think Man City should win this match. Certainly with these midweek matches, and certainly Man City having Champions League final coming up soon, you got to watch with their lineups. But they've been pretty strong, or they've been pretty careful with lineups the entire season. I think that's why they've been so strong and outperformed so many of the other clubs in England that from coming from like mid-table, whatever. I'll leave that to the side. Then Chelsea host Leicester. Currently Chelsea giving 3/4 of a goal. Off the FA Cup with Leicester, played pretty good stingy defense, I think, and we're good at trying to make it difficult on Chelsea. In this case, to secure Champions League, which I think Leicester has almost done that if they haven't already, a draw I think is more than enough for Leicester. So they should be in a kind of a same mind frame. Now, how seriously do they take this match after celebrating for the past 2 days after winning the FA Cup? And Chelsea also had to watch them celebrate, should be pretty pissed off, but also have Champions League final kind of resting in the back of their mind. So that's kind of hard to see Chelsea going all out for this match, though they're still not safe necessarily for Champions League either. I think Leicester, if you want to back them, it'd be based on their defense. And that's been questionable to say the least lately. It was pretty good in the FA Cup, but Chelsea's offense has been a problem also. I think missing Johnny Evans due to injury, I'm not sure he's playing again, as he tried to go and only got 30 minutes in of the FA Cup final. Thank God for 5 substitutions, right? He probably wouldn't have even appeared. But as an underdog player, I think the only side that I'd look at is Leicester. I'd want to make sure that their lineup is still as defensive as possible, which is probably 3 center backs and then 2 wing backs as well. I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to be available to them, but we'll see how that all goes. Chelsea also going to have to see what lineup they put out, but I imagine they probably put a strong one out there to try to get Champions League as close to secured as possible before that last match of the season, which they but then it's also hard to tell, because you want people to be in form and not out of form, but you also want them to be rested and not take chances with injuries. So I'm not sure. Chelsea seemed to play kind of Tuchel. He's always meddling with something or changing something around, and pushing Reece James in the back to deal with Jamie Vardy's speed, with Azpilicueta playing as more of the wing back. Was, I think, a surprise, and I think ultimately might have harmed the team and their offense a little bit. So there's probably going to be some sort of tweak that he does here, and who knows if it'll happen and they'll actually score goals, because unfortunately Timo Werner has not been able to do that all season. You saw in their loss to Arsenal that they really struggled to score, really going 11 behind the ball was Arsenal's strategy, and Chelsea were unable to pierce them. And I think that's going to be a similar strategy here for Leicester, knowing that a draw is enough. They won the Premier League a few years ago from playing sitting back and launching long balls over the top to Jamie Vardy. That might happen again here. I'm not sure. I imagine that we'll still see Iheanacho and Vardy up front, which would be two strikers, which would limit so there'd only be 8 behind the ball in that situation. But I also think Leicester is a little bit prouder now, so they want to be out and playing a little bit more football than just sitting back like they had in the past, or like they did after taking a lead against Leicester in the FA Cup. Against Chelsea in the FA Cup. But ultimately, it's hard to say what to expect until you see lineups for this one. Leicester's defense without Johnny Evans survived on Saturday, but was disastrous against Newcastle. I imagine it would have improved since then, but and there was certainly, I'm sure, a long look taken at that, how to make that better. But Soyuncu in the middle has got some mistakes in him. Fofana on the side, and then a couple wing backs filling in either as the back 4 or back 5. It's hard to say until you see that lineup. But I guess I'm interested in Leicester as it'd be a bet against the Chelsea offense. Then you have to win by 2 goals at the current price to cover the spread and take your full unit. Moving to Wednesday, Everton giving a half of a goal to Wolves. Everton's offense has been a disaster. They have 2 strikers that don't play together and don't fit. So I wonder if Richarlison or Calvert-Lewin end up moving after the season. If Ancelotti's still there, I believe that'll happen. But who knows with wages and all that sort of stuff and contracts and who can buy who in a pandemic world. Hard to know. But Wolves have played great defense ever since they got blasted by Burnley. Goal scoring has been a problem for Wolves, but it is for Everton as well. And Everton have to win the match to cover the spread. Looks like most of the juice on their side might climb to 3/4. Then you get some sort of safety as you get half your bet at +1 on Wolves. And ultimately, it seems like they're still fighting for Nuno Espirito Santo. So I'm interested in Wolves. We'll see what happens with that number and lineups, of course. I think I can go out saying, as I've already said it probably 5 times. I don't need to say it anymore. Next, Tottenham host Aston Villa. Currently, Tottenham given a full goal with all the juice on their side. Looks like it might climb to 1.25. Tottenham's been getting a little bit of respect lately ever since they've been playing all their stud attackers and trying to outscore the other team, unlike the Jose Mourinho experiment. I'm not sure that their manager is great, but they certainly can score goals. Aston Villa has been really good defensively this season, though, to be completely honest. And that's, I think, what has made them a safe club that was well above the relegation zone for as long as they have been, even without Jack Grealish to really do anything on offense. And so Aston Villa's offense is still a concern. Tottenham, once that first goal goes in, the second one's more likely. But Tottenham's had some pretty poor performances, losing to Leeds recently, and just a bunch of performances that I think ultimately got Mourinho axed. But that was a strategy thing, I think, more than really anything. Tottenham just really can't defend. And the hard part is when you can't defend, you have to really outscore the other teams. It didn't work with Jose. I'll leave that to the side as this is a new manager and he's playing a different way. But Tottenham's basically trying to outscore everybody now. And they can certainly and should outscore Aston Villa because they're better and have better offense, better players, et cetera, et cetera. But Aston Villa's defense has been great. And as this starts climbing higher and higher above 1, I think I'm more and more interested in Villa. Okay, next, Newcastle giving 3/4 of a goal to Sheffield United, backing the worst side in like EPL history at one point of this season, already relegated, not sure what they care about, what they don't, is not really interesting to me. Newcastle giving almost a full goal is hilarious based on but they've been playing pretty well the last month or so in scraping out of the bottom 3 or the relegation fight, because I don't think they're ever in the bottom 3. But ultimately, Sheffield United with most of the juice as well. I'll skip this one. Crystal Palace then getting a full goal from Arsenal at home. I think it's only going to be Crystal Palace fans in the stadium, so you don't have to worry about other Londoners getting tickets or finding their way in there that support Arsenal. But Arsenal's fighting to try to get as high up the table as possible and maybe sneak into Europe. giving a full goal on the road with all the juice on their side looks like it's going to climb to 1.25. I think Palace has just reached a point where unless they're playing someone really bad or someone that they're level with or something like that, it's hard for me to want to back them. And who knows what's happened to Roy Hodgson? That still seems to be a mystery. Who knows what's happened with like half of their wage bill as who knows. Everyone's contract seems to be ending this year, which sounds like they're getting a new manager so he can pick new players. But I'll leave that alone now. Burnley then getting a goal in 3/4 from Liverpool. Burnley has sat back and defended, but they're safe now. Doesn't seem to be as interested in doing that sort of thing. Still going to do the long ball offense to Chris Wood, which seems to work really well for a few weeks, few days, and then stops working. Liverpool must win. It's been that way for a while. They've been doing that as much as I've followed. I'm still not caught up fully on this weekend's Premier League, but ultimately, if you're going to back Burnley here, I mean, getting a goal in 3/4 at home with some sort of crowd sounds pretty nice, and it looks like it might climb to even a full 2. That's a number that's interesting just because they won at Anfield, and Liverpool has been unable to score goals this year, which is a pretty big deal when you lay 2 goals. So if it hits 2, I'm going to try my best not to play Burnley because they haven't really defended the way that you would want them to. But ultimately, Liverpool's got all the pressure. They played a ton of matches this season, and they have really had trouble scoring goals. They have seemed to start playing a little bit more of their pressure or counter press, or I don't even think it's a counter, just pressing high as much as they did in last year's Premier League Championship season. Lately, they've been doing that a little bit more to try to turn the opponent over. It's worked. Burnley does not seem capable of that. So what they'll end up probably doing is either playing out of the back and making big mistakes, or potentially long balls, kicking it deep, and then Liverpool having like 85% possession. So I'm not sure that that's going to work really well for anything, but Liverpool trying to score goals has been a problem all season, and I don't know why it necessarily stops when they have to score goals to try to get into Europe. Last but not least, West Brom getting a full goal from West Ham. West Brom with all the juice right now. Fans maybe will go to support their team, but ultimately they're relegated. Nothing really to fight for. A lot of loanies as well. Not sure that they're going to play that great. West Ham really fighting for Europe. Couldn't get the 3 points against Brighton that probably they deserved, but they're going to be putting an offensive lineup out there. There might be a bunch of goals in this match, but ultimately I don't know how many will come from West Brom, so it's hard for me to want to back them, even getting a full goal at home. Okay, so that covers midweek Premier League. Now going to Serie A, the Coppa Italia, some neutral venue, I think in the south of Italy. Atalanta pick 'em with Juve right now, and Atalanta with all the juice on their side. Looks like it might even climb to 1/4. So I was hoping to back Atalanta here. Didn't really expect them to be an underdog, though. Juve are in the fight for Champions League qualification, which is kind of hilarious to say. Atalanta's already clinched that, so they should be putting out the strongest lineup they have. Where Juve might be, I know the Coppa Italia is important, but I don't think it's as important to them financially as a club, not self-destructing. So I expect Juve to be resting some players, or at least putting out a lineup that isn't as strong as it can be, with potentially important players on the bench that they can pull in at some point. Not a lot I want to do there. Even if they become an underdog, I guess it's interesting a little bit to me because when they played in Bergamo as an underdog, 1/4 goal underdog, there was a big deflection late that ended up winning the match for Atalanta. And so Atalanta didn't do that great. It was against a full Juve lineup, or as full as they could make it on that day. But this should be a tight match, and any underdog is probably worth a look at the very least. But it's probably going to be Juventus, and I'm a little bit nervous about who exactly gets in their starting lineup for this match. So we'll probably avoid that one. So that's Italy. Now Serie A as well. Lazio, who's been scoring a ton of goals all season, hosting Torino, giving half of a goal. Torino, I think, need a point, and then they're safe after Benevento collapsed and gave up a late goal. to Crotone. Just brutal stuff, because Benevento was so safe, it looked like, a long time ago, and they've not won or been able to do much, and everyone behind them has been winning, including this Torino side that have given up a ton of goals, got blasted with a bunch of backups in against Milan, and then got blasted again in their next match, which was not unfortunate, against Spezia, which is another team that they were fighting relegation against, and they put in their best players. So that's not a great sign. Confidence is surely low, and I guess that's what happens when you play the backups against a big club that destroy you. They've given up 11 goals in like 4 days or something like that. That's never good, especially against Lazio, who should score a ton. Lazio is probably still trying to fight into a Champions League place, maybe, with a big win over Roma this past weekend. Might have a little bit of a letdown from that. I think this number at only getting a half is a little bit lower than I would have expected on Torino, but ultimately I'm not sure that's a number I want to play with, considering Lazio's penchant to score a bunch of goals. And I'm not sure that Torino, who really are playing attacking football, and that's how they've escaped the relegation fight that they were really in, and now are almost safe. They've gotten out by playing offensively, and I think that's going to play right into Lazio's hands. And then I think the Coupe de la Ligue, or Coupe de France, in I don't know exactly where it is. Maybe it's in Paris or I think it's a neutral field, neutral pitch. Anyway, PSG giving half of a goal to Monaco with all the juice on the PSG side. The interesting thing about this one is that both of these clubs, while I'm sure they want to win the Coupe de France, have way more important matches this weekend in Ligue 1, as PSG is trying to win the Ligue 1 title, coming from behind. Though I think all Lille have to do is win, and they take home the title. But PSG still believe that they can do it. Monaco is, on the other hand, fighting Olympique Lyonnais for the third place, and they're also they control their own destiny. I believe a win, and they finish ahead of Lyon at this point. So I'm going to check that while I'm talking. But just to talk about, I guess, two clubs, PSG with a big win this weekend, Monaco as well. PSG's was much more lopsided thanks to an early red card, which didn't really seem deserved, in my opinion. But I bet against them, so take that with a grain of salt. But something that's like routinely not called a red card. Guy was sliding, putting his arm down to brace himself, and that's like never a red, but whatever it is when I bet against that. Monaco, yeah. So Monaco's one point ahead of Lyon. They had a good win against Rennes, but had to use all their players the best they had. PSG did go with a full lineup as well, but were able to substitute and rest some players. Kimpembe was suspended and should be well rested, I think, for this match. But ultimately, PSG giving a half with all the juice on their side. As that starts climbing higher and higher, PSG had to get through Montpellier, whose manager's leaving and had a pretty disappointing season, certainly a disappointing end to the season, had to go to penalty kicks. And if this goes extra time, that Monaco plus 3/4 or plus a half cashes. So that's interesting, especially because Monaco have been good. They have a pretty deep starting lineup, and they can kind of go with whoever they want to up front, because they've been getting production from pretty much everyone they started up top. Kovac is a good manager. Seems like he can go punch for punch with Pochettino, and cup matches seem to always play tight. The problem is if PSG score early, then you're in big trouble. If this climbs to 3/4, then maybe that's a little bit more interesting. But right now, and certainly PSG does catch a lot of money on the day of matches. Monaco's been playing great, but they got blasted by Lyon on the counterattack the first time they played. Second time they played, collapsed, even up a man, ended up losing a match 3-2 that incredibly could have gone many different ways. But I don't think that PSG is that much better than the rest of France this season, but they certainly the market believes they are every time. And I feel like betting against them is probably kind of like betting against Man City, where Man City's overpriced a lot, but they certainly, when they play well, they can really hammer you. I do question the PSG legs, but part of me wonders if the fight to get into Champions League is more important to Monaco, and they might play a weaker lineup than PSG, who's won umpteen league titles in a row. And they're surely going to be on the wage bill if they want to be next season or have the Champions League money. And seems to me a club franchise changer, et cetera, compared to PSG being like, well, we want to win Champions League anyway each season. So that's the coverage. I went through Premier League, the Coppa Italia, Serie A midweek single match, and then also the Coupe de France. Follow me on Twitter, @thereal_G Warner. Gonna do hopefully a Euro preview. If anybody wants me to go through specific things, let me know. I was thinking about potentially going group by group. Subscribe on here and you'll see when I go live, and so I don't have to post it on Twitter. But thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.